The Holy Rishona, after doing B'dika in his house, on Leil B'dikas Chametz, he continued to his Beis Medrash. It was dark, he came with a candle, and he had an entourage of his close Talmidim, and there was a beggar sleeping on the bench. And he quietly searched around the shul. When he finished the B'dika, he was ready to say the Kol Chamira. So being sensitive, he said it, trying to be careful not to stir him. And he says, Kol Chamira. Suddenly, the beggar stirs up. And he says, Kol Nidre? And I didn't even eat the Suda Mafsekes yet? And everyone broke out in laughter. The Rishona turned, in all seriousness, to his Talmidim, and he said, there's an emes to what he said. You know, the pasuk says in Parshas Bo, when it talks about the mitzvah of Pesach, "V'avarta es avoda hazois b'chodesh hazeh," and he explained, "V'avarta es avoda hazois." Do this avoda. What's avoda hazois? There's another parsha in Achrei Mos. B'zois yovai Aaron el Kodesh, the Kohen Gadol. He goes in to the Kodesh HaKadoshim. That's b'zois. That same avoda of the Aaron HaKohen Lifnai v'Lifnim takes place in the Yom Tov Pesach when we sit down by the Seder. The last few weeks, as I've been home on Shabbos, got up early to daven, a leisurely davening without pressure, to be able to say every word. And I generally like to daven from an interlinear siddur. Not only are the words bold and you can focus on each word, but of course the translation. And my siddur was in Shul, so I went to fetch. I had a marzer, a Yom Kippur marzer that's interlinear. The davening is basically the same until you get to Shemoneh Esrei. And I'm using my Yom Kippur marzer, and I'm thinking to myself, as I got into the davening and I realized, this is Yom Kippur marzer. It was in this last Yom Kippur that what we're enduring was decreed. And of course, which tefillah comes to our mind? Miyamus, miyichya, miyamus. Mi bekitzai, mi loy bekitzai. Who in his right time and who in premature. Mi b'magefa, who in a plague. Mi b'chanika, and who will die because the lungs are not supplying enough oxygen and they're choking to death. So I was thinking, and it struck me, it hit me. And I recalled a story I read recently. Rav Shimon Schwab, whose yahrzeit was recently, I believe it was this week, and he was generally a jovial, positive person. At one Seder night, when his children recall that they were acting a little giddy, a little rowdy, and it was after the second cup of wine, and they're laughing a little more than was appropriate for the night, the sublime nature of the night. And his son recalls that suddenly my father, Rav Shimon Schwab, turns very serious. And he says, he grabbed hold of his kittel and said, in this kittel, they will bury me. Tonight I'm here to tell you that this story is no myth, no legend. It really happened. If it were the last day of my life, I would tell you this story because it is emes. It became a very solemn moment, and then he returned to his jovial self, and the Seder continued. The story is poignant and certainly timely. Of course, we're going to have a great Seder, as limited as it is. We're going to make an exciting time for our family, for ourselves, for our children, who, if we're fortunate to have them around the table. But I think it's going to be with a little bit of this realization. There are people who are not sitting around the table as they might have thought they would have been heading the Seder. And we're going to ponder about who we are, what we are, and the mission of telling over a story that must be told because it's emes. And it's not just an opportunity to reminisce, but to realize that we have to appreciate that we're here and we have a role to fulfill. And we're fortunate, as others are not, to be able to carry this on. You know, the Maral actually says that we wear the kittel on the night of the Seder precisely because we're supposed to imagine ourselves as if we are the Kohen Gadol going Lifnei v'Lifnim. Kohen Gadol only donned the big day Lavan when he did the Avodah of the Yom Kippurim, the Ketores, the Hazov, the Par, and the Sa'ir, then extracting the Ketores from the Kodesh HaKadoshim. He wore big day Lavan. And the Maral says that's what we are. We have to realize that we are the Kohen Gadol on the night of the Seder, each one of us. Each one of us is a Kohen Gadol. You know, it's interesting that this year, the Seder and the days of the week that Pesach falls out on is exactly the day we left Mitzrayim. The Gemara says we left on a Thursday, the first day of Yontif this year. And it was exactly on the Shabbos before, which this year is Yud Nisan, as it was then, that we prepared and tied our Korban Pesach to our bed, preparing it and waiting and longing for the day of Erev Pesach. We would bring the Korban Pesach. And then the 14th. And there's a parallel. In the month of Tishrei, we also have a Rosh Hashanah, which is the beginning of the month. Like we also have Rosh Chodesh Nisan, where it all starts. Yachol me Rosh Chodesh. Then we do Shabbos HaGadol, the Shabbos before, even when it's not exactly the 10th, but it's all patterned after that Shabbos, which was the 10th, which parallels the 10th of Tishrei, the 10th of Nisan, 10th of Tishrei, the Avodah of Yom Kippurim, and the 15th is like Sukkot. So it's an Avodah of Tishrei. Avodah is Avodah Azois b'Chodesh Hazeh. And we wear the kittel, and we're supposed to think about, we are a Kohen Gadol, and we have a role to fulfill. There's other parallels. On Yom Kippur, the lashon of the mitzvah is v'inisim es nafshei seichem. We're supposed to refrain from indulging in physical activities. We're like malachim who don't need. Although we sit at the Seder, and on Pesach we don't fast, but the lechem is called lechem oini. It's simple, it's pashut. It's not the boastful bread. It's the simple pashut bread of survival of essence. And we also, at the end of the Seder, just like at the end of the Avodah on Yom Kippurim, and our Avodah on Yom Kippurim, L'shana haba b'Yerushalayim. What's going on? What's the parallel? How do we understand it? What is the message for all of us? In the Musaf of Yom Kippurim, there are two versions. And one of the versions is called Ata Kenanta, which is the Nusach Sfard, not Nusach Ashkenaz. And there's a beautiful, beautiful introduction that tefillah gives to the Avodah of Yom Kippurim that segues into the whole Avodah that we read, and we bow down, and we reminisce, and we actually act out what the Kohen Gadol and the people did in the Beis HaMikdash. And the beginning is a overview of history, and it starts with Ata Kenanta. Hashem, you prepared a world. You prepared a world. Meirosh, from the start. And you gave it to man, but he failed. Dvar chazonach, your words he forsook. He didn't fulfill them properly. Vatiznach me'eden, and he had to leave and was sent out of Gan Eden. And then it goes on. There was a Yochid, Av Hamoin, Avram Avinu. Then there was a Tle Tahor, Mikeves Nivchar. There was a Yitzchak Avinu, who was the Akedah, who represents Mesiras Nefesh. Migizah Yishtam, from his roots came out a Yaakov Avinu, the Yishtam, and from him Shnei Moshe Shvatim, 12 Shvatim. From him Levi, the choice Shevet, Livyas Chen, the one who found Chen in Hashem's eyes. Amram Nivchar, Mishevet Levi, Aaron Kadosh Hashem. From the family of Amram and Aaron HaKohen, the Kadosh Hashem was chosen. And then it segues into the whole Avodah. And it ends, as we know, Ashrei Yom She Kochaloi, Ashrei Yom She Hashem Elikov. It's the sum total of why we're here in this universe. We are a fulfillment of a return to an idyllic state that we're still yearning for, that we hope we will arrive at. That started with Avram and Yitzchak and Yaakov and the Shvatim, continued through Amram, Aaron HaKohen, and continues through each of us in our life and the manner in which we live our life. And although we may not ever enter into Kodesh Kodashim, but sometimes HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings the Kodesh Kodashim to us. And we sit back and we realize that we have a responsibility. Each one of us was taken out of Mitzrayim. Chayev Adam liris es atzmai ki'ilu hu atzmai yatsa mitzrayim. We were specifically selected because we each are the tachlis of creation. B'shvili nivra olam. We believe that each one of us is worthy of that role that Aaron HaKohen accomplished to affect the kapara of Klal Yisrael. We each have that role and play a unique role that no one else plays. So we don't have to go to the Kodesh HaKodashim. But Meir Gadol Zugi L'Shchina, just like in Mitzrayim. The Shechina came to them. The Targum says that miraculously the Ananei HaKavod took them from Mitzrayim that night to Yerushalayim and brought them back. Whether it means literally, which it seems that way, or perhaps spiritually, the Shechina was there. We were ensconced in the Kodesh HaKodashim. We were bringing the most exquisite Ketores, the most exquisite scent of who we are before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Even the Kabbanas are somewhat, even the Avodah and the Korban Pesach has parallels. You know, the Kohen Gadol, he first brought the Ketores, then he brought the par, which was on his behalf and his family's behalf, the family of Kohanim. Then he sprinkled the dam of the Soyer, which was for Klal Yisrael. And then at the end, after he had already brought the Ketores, done the Hazar Saddam, he goes in the Big Day Lavan to extract the pan which the Ketores was brought, and the Gemara calls it an Avodas Yochid. He goes out as a single individual, a Yochid. Although he represented the agent of Klal Yisrael, at the end of the day, it's Avodas Yochid. The Korban Pesach, the Gemara uses the expression, Bo B'Knufya, comes God's Klal Yisrael, all of Klal Yisrael. We can only imagine. Everyone. And the Azara filled up several times a day. And the machinery of the Avodah, of the Kohenim's Rizim, is described so magnificently, so excitedly, and the joy and the singing. But at the end of the day, the Korban Pesach is simply a Korban Yochid. It's a Korban Yochid. And we stand back and realize that we stem from a long history, starting with Avram until our ancestors, our closest ancestors, closer ancestors until us, and hopefully our progeny, our children. And we realize that we're no different and no less of a link than any of the ancestors, always going back all the way to Avram Avinu. We each play a unique role. We each stand before HaKadosh Baruch Hu with the notion of the Avodas HaYochid on behalf of the Knufya, of the Tzibur, of the entire Klal Yisrael, that can't come to fruition until we each play a unique role. We have to realize our role, our purpose, and our mission. I think back over these few weeks, ponder, thinking, when I was preparing what to say. And I realized how much I miss everyone. And I realized how every single one of you, every single one, without exception, is such an integral part of the map that is part of our journey. And any single one would be plucked out. There would be something missing. There will be something missing, every single one, without a doubt. And I think all of us can step back and think about it. And everyone would agree. Our life is comprised of a mosaic of the people that Hashem brought in our kehillah, and obviously beyond, and it goes beyond, and it goes to ultimately the beautiful portrait of the greater Klal Yisrael. And each one of us is that Kohen Gadol who has to sit at the table, whether you're wearing the white kittel as the head of the table, or you're joining in and you sit in your position, in your role, whether it's the mother, the child, the friend, the guest, whoever it may be, the grandparent, the grandchild, in better days. Each one is as integral, as important, as significant as the Kohen Gadol who goes in, lifnai v'lifnim. You know, the Kohen Gadol, if they're doing that whole avodah, he said a short prayer. And the last prayer that he said, the last prayer that the Gemara records in Yuma, is that he said, and he prayed, that the prayers of the outbreak drachim should not be adhered to. Hashem, don't listen to them. The simple pshat in the Gemara is the outbreak drachim are people who travel. And even though Klal Yisrael sometimes needs rain and there's a drought, and those who travel are only interested in getting to their destination, and if it's raining and it's pouring, it impedes their ability to get where they have to get to, and they pray, even though it might be at the expense of others. So the Kohen Gadol says, don't adhere to the tefillas of the outbreak drachim. Is that the most significant prayer that he has to say? So one of the great Hasidim, Reb Shalom of Amshinov, and I believe it's quoted from the Yitav Lev and the Ben Yehoyada, they say an amazing pshat. You know, we find an expression in the Gemara, outbreak drachim, the people who travel. And then there's an expression of holchei drachim, those who go on the road. What's the difference between an outbreak drachim, you're going, passing from one place to another, and holchei drachim? And they explain that what the Kohen Gadol is saying is as follows. There are people in life who travel through life, and they know they have a destination. They got to fulfill the rule books. They got to fill the Torah. There's a lot to do. But they look at all the journey and the difficulties that come in between as a nuisance. I got to get it. Let me fulfill it. They don't see the journey as every step is purposeful. Every step is part of the challenge and the mission that forms me and transforms me into the Kohen Gadol. The Kohen Gadol is saying, Hashem, don't listen to the outbreak drachim, the people who don't appreciate the difficulties as a message from Hashem, as a summoning of Hashem. I want to get close to you. I'm giving you an opportunity to become a champion. I want you to strive. I want you to face obstacles, because in those obstacles, when you formulate the proper perspective, you'll see that I'm reaching out and I'm embracing you. Don't listen to the outbreak drachim, who don't understand that the difficulties of their journey are significant and purposeful. That tefillah is to stop the rain can't be listened. The holchei drachim, the people who know that even when it rains, even when the ground is muddy, and even when there are obstacles and difficulties, that's where one finds the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Yetzias Mitzrayim was the beginning of a long journey. We all look back at our ancestors, our parents, our grandparents. If we were fortunate, some of you, great-grandparents, and each one of them had their journey. And we hope, and certainly I can look back and say, they weren't Oivei Drachim. They went through very difficult times, but they were Holchei Drachim. They were forged, they became great, and they became inspiring because of what they became through understanding what their mission was. As they sat and saw the sum total of their life in their old age, sitting around a table of children and grandchildren, and seeing that the investment is what it's all about. It's the Holchei Drachim. It's the path. It's the journey. Baruch Hashem had an opportunity to talk to nearly everybody, the majority, members here, members elsewhere, and a very close member who moved away not that long ago. I asked him, how's your mother-in-law, how's your father doing? And he tells me, my father is a tough cookie. He doesn't want to stay home. So I said, why not? He's going to endanger himself. He's a man in his 70s. He says, listen, he's a professional cook, and he cooks for a Meals on Wheels program in New York, in Achiezer, out of a school called Achiezer in Brooklyn. And he knows that there are many people dependent on his providing the meals. If he doesn't come, the machine will stop. They won't be able to provide these meals for these indigent people who have no other means, they have no other family. And he says his father knows that many of them are Holocaust survivors. And his father said to him, he says, but Dad, it's dangerous. So his father said, Tzadikal, if while I'm going out and devoting myself to preparing meals for Holocaust survivors who need the food, I'm ready to go. I'll go on the derech that Hashem wants me. If Hashem takes me under those circumstances, I'm ready. What a schus. That's a heilig derech. But you don't have to jeopardize your life. And of course, he took the precautions. He wasn't really jeopardizing, but he meant to say that this sometimes we understand what our mission is, and we got to do it. It's not about convenience. The obstacles that come our way are schusim. It's what gives us the red carpet straight to the embrace of the Shekhinah. So we're all heading towards Leil Pesach. And this is the Shabbos HaGadol Drasha. The Shabbos HaGadol Drasha, it has to encompass within it not only Shabbos HaGadol, a Yiska Drasha, Tfilas Tal Drasha. So we talked about the rains, and we talked about Misa, Yiska, and we talked about Shabbos HaGadol, the legacy that we live, the legacy, the privilege that was given to us to be Holchei Drachim, not Oivei Drachim. And to realize that whatever comes our way, we have to be ready to put on the big day kahuna, because each one of us is a Kohen Gadol that Klal Yisrael is contingent on our avodah. Now I want to finish with a very poignant story about my little friend, Heshi. If you've heard my other talk, it's a young man who unfortunately has to go to a secular school because he has learning disabilities. And his tefillos were answered because this situation doesn't allow him to go to school. His brother goes to TA, and they arrange that he can also zoom in on the classes of his contemporaries so he can participate. His father called me up one day and said, and then he FaceTimed me, and I saw little Heshi. And he says, you see Heshi in the picture, in the video, and he's wearing a white shirt. It wasn't Rosh Chodesh, and it wasn't Shabbos. So I said, why is he wearing a white shirt? So little Heshi, who had an opportunity to finally learn Torah and relish it every day, turned to his father in all earnestness. And he said, "What do you mean? I'm learning Torah with a Rebbe. Of course I'm going to put on a white shirt." He put on his kittel. He put on his big day kahuna g'dayla. Because he understands that he's a heilig derech, and he has an opportunity that he doesn't normally have, and he relishes it, and he puts on instinctively, because he has a neshama that senses that in that little Zoom room is the Shechina Hagdasha, the Gilui Shechina B'Ma'ir Gadol, is the Kodesh HaKadosh and the Lifnei V'Lifnim. So as we prepare Shivas Yamim, before Yom Kippur, the Gemara says, they prepare the Kohen Gadol. Every day he prepares. And he goes over the Avodah. He prepares. He reviews it. And he builds up and realizes what his mission is. We have 7 days. And we have an Avodah. And Hashem brought the Kodesh HaKadoshim. It's our home, just like in Mitzrayim. The bias became the Mizbeach. The blood was smeared on its walls, on its lintel. And we became the chariot for the Shekhinah. We became one. We went in the Kodesh HaKadosh. The Kodesh HaKadoshim came to us. Hashem is sitting with us. So as we sit at the Seder table, reflect on this. Reflect on the privilege that each one of you have been given. Whether you have a family, you don't have a family. And certainly if you're privileged to have one. Every single one of us is a Kohen Gadol. Every single one of us was singled out at Yetzias Mitzrayim because of what we are to accomplish. It's time for us to realize that we're not Ovrei Drachim. Vayelchu vayasu. They went. They were Holchei Drachim. May we, in these unusual times, which is clearly, even in its most difficult moments, evidence of the presence of Hashem, because there's no other way that one can interpret it. There's absolutely no other possibility. No one has a doubt. And to us who understand what it means to be a heilig derech, not an oived derech, Hashem is holding us. He's touching us. He's holding our hand. If you're feeling isolated, just realize the Kohen Gadol didn't feel isolated when he was in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, because he knew that Hashem was embracing him. He was in his presence. May we elevate ourselves. May we really understand that it's not just a cliche. Chayav adam liris hasatzmai, ki'ilu hu yatsa atam mitzrayim. We were selected because of the special qualities that each one of you have. Let's rise to that challenge. Let's devise our lives with purpose. Let's realize when we put on that kittel, if we're fortunate to sit with the kittel at the table, and even if not, let's echo the words of Rav Shimon Schwab, that in this kittel, we're going to be buried, because we're here for a certain amount of time. And we have a mission to accomplish. And so many of those who passed, if you follow, had done remarkable things in their life. And even those that we don't know, I'm sure each one of them, in their avodas Kohen Gadol, they certainly fulfilled it. Let us not be like that beggar on the bench that says, "Oy, it's kol nidre, and I didn't even eat the Suda Mafsekes yet." Let's get ready. Let's prepare ourselves. There are so many opportunities to rise to the challenge. It's not easy, but it's exquisite. It's joyous. It's thrilling. There's nothing more joyous than Avodas Hashem. if we plug in and we realize who we are, what our relation to Hashem is, no wonder at the end of the Avodah on Yom Kippur we say Lashana Haba, because Holchei Drachim also have a destination. And even though we're ready to go through the mud, if that's what it takes, we certainly want to get to the destination. Lashana Haba, Yerushalayim. Or maybe even this year, we still got some time to get there. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu look at us and see the beauty of our people. And you are all beautiful. I'm so inspired by so many aspects of all that you're enduring and how you're enduring it. It's just, I can only imagine the nachas that Hashem has, who understands it on an entirely different level. May we be zeicha l'shana haba b'Yerushalayim Rabbeinu. May we rejoice. May we be excited. May we feel the thrill. May we sense the embrace of Hashem. May we give that over, fulfill our mission, and hopefully soon we'll be there, bringing the Korban Pesach. May we be in Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh, Abnuya, Emir Hashem, very soon with the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu, B'mheir of Yameinu. Amen. Thank you.